Hello, this is Matt and Alexa. Set time for 1 hour.
1 hour. Starting now.
Oh yeah. So last time we finished the economic and military trees, so it's time to address the nation. The time has come. We will save our Donbass brothers from the Ukrainian government, yet Europe is almost guaranteed to intervene. That matters little. They outnumber us, but that is fine too. We defeated Napoleon with vastly inferior numbers. We stopped Hitler from entering Moscow while being outnumbered almost 2 to 1. And just as in the past, the Russian evil will always return to being the leader of Europe. Endgame. The office shrouded it in thick smog, cigarette smoke and tension of sleepless nights. Once again, hosted by Hoi4 weary but not unyieldly, they persevered for decisive steps. Medvedev, leaning back in his chair, broke the heavy silence. Colleagues, compatriots, we have a goal. His voice, hoarse from fatigue, ran the iron with iron resolve. History has given us a rare chance to correct the mistakes. We've come a long way, but the greatest test is ahead. The president coughed softly into his fifth. Then continued. Today we launched a riskiest phase, but I have no doubt in you. His words made everyone sit straighter. Let's get over the points once more. Medvedev ran over his face. Sergei Kuzichovich, your report. Sure you? His face stone-like, stated crisply. Troops are in position. All commanders are briefly ready for your signal. Unexpectedly, Lavrov raised his hand. Dmitry Anatolievich, NATO is showing troubled activity. The reaction may exceed our forecasts. Medvedev turned to him slowly, his gaze cold as steel. Spoke to himself. The reaction is predictable. In my address, I will make it clear. Interference equates to suicide. They won't dare. As Lavrov silently takes his seat, the president added, addressing all but Sergei Kuzichovich, ensure your units are ready for anything. His finger traced a circle encompassing the room and all of you. No surprises. Not from the west, not from within. Clear? The IM5 plays the game into its end. The end's game has begun. What should I do? I need to do BAM, sorry. I need to do this. Ooh. So for Rostock, I need 6 of 6. There was 5 already, so 6 NTU. Nikolaevsk. Yeah, need 2 of either. I need to get you to 4 infrastructure, if that's not good enough. Yeah, 4 or 6. 4. Cheetah, I need 3. Also, you need 3 as well, so Bam! I need 3 railroads going through each of you. So Cheetah and Kutsk. Beretti's already got 3. I just need some more. Alright, railways. You go here. 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 Oh. It said level 2 of it. Is it actual? Oh no, it's need to be level 3 ones. Dumb brain. Level 2, 3. Level 3. Just to be safe. Right. Zwang. 1. A lone lamp lines on the desk, her nervous fingers gripping pen. Medvedev sat still, staring at the void. Then thoughts of possible conspiracy by Sobyanin military kept him reckless. Only you were here, old KGB man. His voice faded into silence. Closed his eyes, squeezing about until the temples throbbed. Thought tangled, unraveled, and reassembled until they formed some sort. The pen touched paper, slowly at first, cautiously faster. Plans flowed into gear machines, then stroke dismay and lean back. The plan takes shape. A new form of an old alliance. Captain Ignatov, serving the Russian military base in Kazakhstan, and at first noticed old changes. New gears arrived in the warehouse, modern bodies, armor, digital radios, and thermal sights once only dreamed of. Then extra units rolled in, and old barracks were hastily renovated for new purpose. They are prepping for something you now have thought, seeing new vehicles with CSTO member states markings on them. Training grounds. No official word came, just vague, commanded hints of upcoming alliance change. Evening barracks talks centered nerd and strange activity. They say all CSTO bases will share standard gear soon. A logistics sergeant shared, others whispered about joint drills and dwarfing past ones. Frequent visits to senior Moscow officers, holding closed meetings left. To base command, both puzzled and energized. Ignatov sensed a grand prelude, but details remained elusive. Clarity came via the Soldier Club. TV broadcasting President addressed a new decree mandated that the CSTO shall allocate 5% of their GDP to alliance military development. Joint Rapid Response Forces, Unified Air Defenses, Regional Coordination Centers. Turns rang as the soldiers exchanged glances. Their modest base was now calling a new collective security system. No wonder they brought the new gear. Ignatov smirked, eyeing his freshly issued tablet with tactical markings, sights, wide sights, and realized dawns. Their routines was about to change drastically. A civilian factory in Taganrog. This bit here, on the border regions between Novorossiya. The meeting. Anna strolled through the park, trying to shake off the gloomy thoughts. The city was at it again, an endless rant of the coming shitstorm, and the news of the TV grew even more unsettling. She sat on the bench on the pond watching the ducks. A young man in the neat military uniform paused nearby and politely clearing his throat. "Pardon, may I join you?" he asked Anna, noticing the hint of shyness. "Well, the bench was taken, and my feet are killing me. Like after a forced march." "Sure, have a seat," Anna replied, scooting over slightly. The guy sat setting a small backpack beside him. "Sergey," he introduced to his hand. "Anna," she responded, shaking his firm grip. The conversation flowed naturally. Sergey was reserved at first, but soon warmed up. He shared his units and redeployed closer to the city for exercises. He spoke of service about pond and the pomp, more like tough but necessary work. Anna shared trivial updates, steering clear of politics, and her brother loved to chew out of it. They talked for nearly an hour. Sergey was an attentive listener, and when she smiled, dimples made him look boyish, despite the uniform and fatigue. When he got ready to leave, Anna felt a pang of regret. "Maybe we'll meet again sometime," she blurted out to surprise herself. Sergey beamed. "I'd love to. I've got a day off in a couple of days." They exchanged numbers. Watching him go, anger lingered on the bench. Weeks later, after several dates filled a long walk, she noticed morning nausea and a particular kind of fatigue. Amid grey days, love blossoms. She's pregnant. Functionally, she's pregnant. Was I think Sergey dies. I could be wrong, but I do remember that he's not really in it. Zugzwang 2. The soft glow of the desk lamp illuminated only the edge of a massive table and the dense face of two men. The doors locked, cameras disabled, even the guards outside were no idea what's inside. Medvedev leaned in his chair, slowly twirling the golden pen between his fingers. His voice was quiet, but each word felt like a verdict. "Alexander Vasilievich, you know I trust you." Bornikov sat motionless, his fingers tightening slightly at his knees. He understood this was no request, it was an order, and he had never appeared on paper. "But the army is a special case." Medvedev smirked as if pretending it was just a jest. "I want to be saying there are no sleeping generals. You know what I mean." Bernikov's eyes narrowed. Let's put it this way." President leaned forward, shade sliding across his face. "Your people in manufacturing counterintelligence. Have them work with personnel, not unofficially. Let them listen if someone was grumbling in the smoking room about the weakness of power, until I give the order to stop." He paused and letting the FBI realize he wasn't just monitoring, it was a hunt. "If you find anyone, tell me personally." The pen in his finger froze. No paper, no official directive. Bornikov nodded slowly. Zugzwang 3. The curtains tightly drawn. Motion sensors in the room were temporarily disabled. Standard protocol was only 2 remained in the office. Nershkin sat across his face as always impressive. His eyes, his a faint spark of alertness. He knew if the president summoned him personally without protocol, the matter was serious. Medvedev took a silver water glass and leaned forward. "Sergeyevich, I know we have many enemies." The floors in the office silence creaked chairs mildly, as they all dream of splitting our elites. Nershkin's eyes narrowed. He understood where the pyramid was heading. "You know the SSB is our main shield, but..." Medvedev made a dramatic pause. "What if someone was starting to play their own games?" Nershkin's gaze shifted. Calmly gave a cold analysis clarity. He was already calculating possibilities. "I'd like to ask for your help," Medvedev spoke softly. Each word hit the mark. "Have your people monitor any unusual contacts within the SSB? Yeah, especially among those of the top brass. If there's anything odd, any suspicion, straight to me." Noshkin nodded quietly, dramatically smiling, but there was no warmth in his smile. This conversation never happened, you understand? All reports, personally to you, to me, in person, no immediately. Get robot-assisted logistics. Halfway there. Zhigzwang 4. I don't know what Zhigzwang means. Why do I have to say Zhigzwang? Not like Zhigwang. Anyway. Shoigu entered the room, frowning as usual. Unscheduled summons. Medvedev sat at the fireplace, twirling open the dossier marked SVR Top Secrets in his hands. Sergei Kuzichovich, come in, care for a drink. The president nodded towards the decanter of cognac. I won't say no. Shoigu took a seat, assessing the settings. No guards, no aides, just two of them. Medvedev poured 2 glasses, holding one for the minister. Noshkin's been troubling me, he said, casually, discarding weapon. The people have been getting a bit too curious about our defense facilities. You know what I mean. Shoyu slowly raised his glass to his lips, buying time, I think. The SVR always pokes its nose where it doesn't belong, he chuckled. But what's the specific issue? I want your GRU boys to keep an eye on them. Medvedev took a sip of cognac, unofficially of course. An interest in who's they're meeting, especially regarding our classified programs. I want to know if they're plotting something, without withholding information from me. Pause. A log cracked in the fireplace. I suspect a leak? You suspect a leak? Shogu sat in his glass, his fingers tightening slightly. I suspect not everyone's telling the truth, President style, but your people are above suspicion. And besides, the army has always been a mistake's backbone. He's just making everyone watch each other. Our presence is bolted at the Ukrainian border. The fire grows. The sequel for The Fire Rises is made by Jordan Jereb. The special military operation in Ukraine, Zabrodinu. We get blocked by Aboriginal cartels in the Mexican government, as well as some small Central American governments. The SMO, beginning of the SMO. Oh, you know how this will happen. Your attack until dawn, crushing Ukrainian defenses and an air to power. The tank breakthrough, strike quickly, focusing on capturing the areas and interesting connecting with Transnistria will be difficult. Our soldiers must try to summon as many enemy troops as possible. However, Ukrainian allies will not stand enemy but expect to intervene in the conflict soon. Plans of operations against the Ukrainians accordingly. You will use all available means to achieve victory. If you can handle Ukraine, then half the job will be done. Good luck, and the future of Europe depends on your efforts. Roger that. Dmitry Medvedev, official statement on the start of the SML. Citizens of Russia, a historic moment has arrived. The Russian citizen has been very patient after all. He endured years while the Karyans bred headed by Western intelligence services known as the Kiev regime, or the Kiev junta, committed genocide on the Russian-speaking populace of the Donbass. But today, we declare that our patience has run out. Today, at 4 a.m., it actually is 4 a.m. in that timeline. Could be p.m. actually. The armed forces of the Russian Federation, the AFRF, launched a special military operation to compel Ukraine to peace. The Ukrainians' existence is a mere historical mistake, one that we could have tolerated, but the Bandera regime deliberately persuaded escalation. Recall the Minsk agreement, and even as Vladimir Putin stepped down as president, he immediately abandoned them. That actually is somewhat level of true to a point. For years, Ukrainian forces conducted so-called decommunizations, as if they would have done better if they learned from history lessons, or they known that if it was communism who created the state called Ukraine. In fairness, the Ukrainian Socialist Republic was made by the communists, so you want real decommunization? Very well, we will deliver it. Our troops will cleanse the Russian land of fascist vermin, just as we did in 1945. I warn all Ukrainian armed forces personnel, you have exactly 12 hours to lay down your arms. Anyone who continues to resist will be destroyed without negotiations. A special warning to NATO: any interference in this operation will treat it as a declaration of war against Russia. The consequences look at your masters across the ocean. Do not commit suicide, or future atlases, what the fuck? I think someone forgot just space will erase more than just Ukraine. Russia has exhausted all possible abilities for a peaceful resolution, and now we speak only the language of force. The operation will continue until our objectives are fully achieved, no matter the time or resources required. Judgment Day for Nazism has arrived. Sorry about that, my headphones went out of control. Need to check everything. Right. Everything is now alright. Then, advance. More countries, and finally, a special military operation. Ukraine, a country born out of a series of mistakes by Russian rulers, has long been a source of tension between Russia and West since the 19th century. Since the 2014 revolution, the Western powers have used Ukraine as a counter to Russia. Their goal is to turn it into a battleground, draining of the resources and lives of the Slavic people. As their paths come to fruition, it is crucial for Russia to act decisively. Ukraine will no longer threaten Russia, and one day it may return to the Slavic fold and join its roots. Then we're going to do Operation Armageddon. Sergei Surovikin, often criticized by the West as a butch general, was in fact a highly skilled and effective commander. His leadership is bold and decisive, capable of maximizing utility his troops. He has demonstrated his ability to be in peacetime and on the battlefield of Syria, where he turned an ordinary soldier into a formidable force. Where the military operation in Ukraine, it will be worth considering General Surovikin's approach. By advancing a resolution determined and Syria could consider weakening the resistance of the government in Ukraine and the Ukrainian military. This strategy may lead to substantial damage. The Ukrainian infantry could be severely impacted by artillery and airstrikes, while the loss of our life or the destruction is tragic. Such sacrifice is sometimes seen as necessary to pursue our strategic objectives. The other option: protect civilian lives. It's important to remember our military operations in Ukraine are focused on targeting extremist fascist groups and the government in Ukraine, in Kyiv, which is under the influence of Western powers. However, Ukrainian citizens, particularly those conflict averse in the eastern regions, are not our enemy. In fact, they are key to success to the liberation efforts and winning their war. Their support is essential as we advance. Our forces will prioritize the protection of citizens, their property, and their safety. We aim to demonstrate the war that the Russian military is not the Tatar army, some kind claim it to be, but rather a disciplined elite force. Not what I wanted to press. First, bring all users into the party. B. Wrong button again. Focus dot auto complete. That's because Europe comes into the conflict within like minutes of each other, so it's not really important. Protect civilian lives. Our historic duty. The conquest of Ukrainian regions by Tsarist Russia established the Russian governments and cities. However, during World War II, this was threatened by German Nazis and their allies. We must never forget that it was the great Soviet army, along with the millions of heroic individuals who stood up against and defended Ukraine from the threat of Nazism. In the decades that followed, we helped secure Ukraine's prosperity and stability. Today, the grandchildren of the heroes of the Great Hero War are once again facing the force of Nazism in Ukraine. While communism is no longer the rallying cry once was, the fact remains that the fascist forces will always be defeated from our soldiers, and the truth stands firm. Form pro-Russian brigades. Even outside the borders of Novorossiya, threats remain the Ukrainian soil. It is difficult to protect when anti-Russian forces in Ukraine may once again destabilize the region and pose a danger to our people. Therefore, we must choose to support local pro-Russian armed groups united by common cultural and ethnic ties. These groups could then confront Ukrainian military forces. This to protect our borders. Focus dot auto complete. The civil military administrations. In 2014, the Ukraine was experienced significant instability, driven now only by ethnic tensions and ongoing low-intensity conflicts, but also by widespread corruption and government's inefficiencies in the administrative system and exploitation of resources by economic oligarchs. However, the arrival of Russian forces, we anticipate a substantial change and establish the civil military administrations in the newly liberated territories quickly to restore local economy and social order. This will mark the first genuine form of governance that represents the interests of Ukrainian people since the current leadership took power in Kiev. We are committed to improving their lives, offering the greater prosperity and stability that Ukraine before the conflict began. Thanks, man. Yeah, there's a glitch where if you manage to get it, which you won't unless you cheat, it gives you 4 stacks of 25 max trained out super units in your way. Put you under Viktor Krenin. Put you under Mikhail Tiplitsky. And put you over here. put you under Yuri Kuznetsov. Put you up here. Put you under Alexander Tolyanganov. And put you here. Put you under Viktor Goromenkian. And finally, put you under Yuri Stanitsky. Business shooter. Betito Perdopale, a United Russia's not Viktor Vinishkovich Rosenblatt opened the door fearlessly. A junior staffer from the Cultural Ministry. Don't you want to remember? Yeah, sure, Zorporedko didn't. Orders came to reserve all key internet figures, and I pulled strings to get you listed. Many think you're fallen off. No longer relevant. I haven't fallen off. My views have dipped. The chubby, slightly cross-eyed and nearly bald man faltered. But this isn't nothing, right? Right. The country needs volunteers, and your reservation needs earnings. Please add this ad to all details here. The staffer vanished as fast as he appeared. Weeks later, a new video dropped. Year of old crap, as fans called it. Today we drive into ancient game dev, the dawn of NES, Wild Gunman, the controls, pure shit. How do we draw his revolver faster? Why two guys next level? Where's the civilians? I always love shooting civilians. Made a video and an unexpected ad to create a flair. Camera 11 Gumarov from Apartment 32 stood in tattered suit, grinning menacingly, holding two items. This is Chikelo. No, it's not a Chaton. This is a Kefir. If you don't volunteer for fun war crimes in an illegitimate country, I'll eat both and launch gas attacks on the Kremlin. I only remember the ad of the old crap. And to help myself, Dell or UKR. Is this cheating? 100%, but I like cheating, so screw you. Screw. Create Storm Z, established together with Russia, the political party. Oh, I can't do that, I need add more PV, and employ the wagoners. Ukrainian Rasputista. The Russian pierced through Ukrainian territory rolled over once peaceful Ukrainian Europe. As signs things to come become very apparent to both sides of conflict that heavy rain, flush mud has covered most of the road and the ground in Eastern Europe. For NATO and our allies, this gives the ability to hunker down and be able to weigh out the Russian war machine for it to run out of fuel and get forces to halt. However, for Russia, this may not only be moved well in these poor conditions, the weaker logisticals may collapse entirely. The option to reposition themselves as better offensive capabilities to strike the earlier opportunity against the West further seemingly more appealing to Russian key positions. For now, as the nature of the war degrades from light war to rush towards pacification of NATO, it has now become a more akin to the First World War and being more a war of attrition and technology suppression. Great. Thanks, guys. Plagiarism. Since the start of the SMO, Leonid Ivakovich scored every news item, dissected every political statement, analyzed every detail. His laptop screen froze on his book open file. It can't be. He's a Democrat. He's a liberal, he shouted into the void. He couldn't believe his eyes. Reality almost word for word that he'd in only one difference nagged him. Medved ruled, not Putin. When the neighbors dropped by, Leonid Ivakovich unleashed a torrent of outrage. The neighbors, scratching his forehead, sighed. Len, what do you expect? Same party, same people in the administration. But Konstantin wouldn't relent. He began writing complaints to the presidential administration, appealing to the prosecutor's office, letters on social media. He bombarded every institution with denunciations, demanding investigation into state-scale plagiarism. Soon he became recognizable. The local housing office rolled their eyes when he approached with another sack of paper. Even shop clerks sighed when he's waving fresh printouts, explaining why they blatantly copied his future. The poor postman suffered most. But daily, he delivered new official reports, tried bolder-placed rejections each time. Ivakovich, shaking the papers, yelled, "See, they even dodged the same way, word for word, like in the book. In my book." The dog barked, but the caravan moved on. I didn't give you a line. There we go. Stefan Bandera's statue monument. The destruction of the Bandera monument. While the Ukrainians defended the city of Lviv with tooth and nail, they were unable to stop our advance, and our forces continued to march into the city. We were able to find Stefan Bandera's monument. Bandera, the Ukrainian hero who collaborated with Germans during the Second World War, committed several acts of ethnic cleansing against our people and the Poles. The KGB dealt him justice, but his legacy lives on. The ignorant Ukrainians still praise him as a hero when he was nothing more than a barbarian. Ukraine has fought violently in his fight to be the same barbarians it worships, and its own in our duty to destroy his legacy. Destroying his monument would be the first step. Within minutes, one of our tanks arrived, aimed at the statue, and fired at him, obliterating the murderer's image. His image had been shattered and will be molten and transformed into metal whole, honoring the true Russian heroes of Russia. Now the road remains empty, open to the rest of Europe. Nazi pigs don't deserve to be remembered. Skirmishes at NATO, and after 10 days. European War. A war between Europeans and civil war. Thank God I paired all the fronts, except ironically Ukrainian one. southern one, part of Ukraine one. Interrupted broadcast on the TV. He, with seconds ago, was chattering about recipes and explosion signs announced cold ice squeezed out. Citizens, the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance officially activated Article 5. The cup slipped out of her hands, shattering across the floor. Anya doesn't notice the shards, her fingers clenching the table, her eyes wide open in horror. The bathroom door slams against the wall. Vazia, wet in the towel, freezes the threshold. Is this serious? The screen ablaze, tanks thundering at NATO's planes tearing the sky. Map is bleeding with scarlet arrows. They decided. Vazir is choking, his voice shaking. They're gone. That's some crazy shit going on over across the ocean. This is madness, Anya whispered, her gaze glued to the screen. The world was already on the brink. Everyone's gone crazy. The world's on, his heart pounding from a sharp bang outside the window. Did the neighbors rope rattle, or the kettle whistled if nothing was happening? An ordinary evening clustered dust. The new time is of coming outside. Estonia is usually the first to go. What the hell are you doing? You take your damn time, aren't you? Let's stay. Operation Suvorov. Alexander Suvorov is undoubtedly one of the most brilliant military commanders of our nation's history. His campaigns in the Balkans, Poland, and Italy were so successful that they left Europe mostly for middle armies and generals in awe. As such, the naming of the latest Russian military operation after him is fitting tribute to the defensive of the Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania will be swiftly overcome by our forces, disrupting NATO's long-standing strategy of using the Baltic states to contain Russia. Thank you. So everyone but Latvia has joined. You just hold out there. You guys are here under Shoigu. You start going. You hold. Men you are, you will hold and you will like to hold. Activation free. And finally, leave. Oh, thank you, Iran. I love those 4 volunteers. I'll do the shortest, ironically, which is longest. Kremlin office was steeped in tense silence. The Iron Five exchanged glances, but Medvedev remained icily calm, slowly scanning the room with his hand. So, his voice sounded unexpectedly soft. These suicides have finally made their move. Shoigu sighed, raising his head, cautiously asked, "Shall we activate the strategic forces?" Medvedev sharply raised his eyebrow. "After all, the trillions invested in the army. Are you saying we can't defend ourselves with conventional means?" The defense minister faltered, but the president pressed on his voice in metallic firmness. You said we have the best army, Sergei Kuznetsovich. Prove it. Tactical retreats are acceptable. Announce mobilization, and when it completes, I want to the European Warsaw capital up to Warsaw. Clear? The oppressive silence filled the room. Members surveying the room. I warned them. If they get involved, it won't just be Kiev that pays. This isn't a threat. It's a promise. His gaze shifted to Lavrov. Victor Sergei Viktorovich, whether all allies, he's let them send envoys, every division, every reservist if they got no one to send. Let them mobilize. I don't care. No more feeding these freeloaders. And there's Narishkin. Sergei Yevgeyevich, provide them with intelligence, not a single misstep. Finally, a general order. The rest of you. Full shift of warfaring. No restrictions, no buts. The army gets everything and not a single glitch inside. Outside, over the Kremlin walls, the clouds are gathering. Terrible strain in unusual times. Venitsa was restless. The raging war hadn't spared this corner. News constantly reported strikes in his area. Yet Papich kept streaming. In an undeered, the blue room was dark today. Only by a candle Papania had prepared nearby. Beside him, a table shaped of an X faintly showed on the window. Yo, guys! The great list began only to hit a donation. Anaras, 500 rubles. Yo, Papania, ready to stream for the RF, Russian Federation. Going to be Russian folk streamer. Zov, 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 zov. The donation clearly cut Patrick off. Damn, what are you blabbering out? What the hell, dude? What you just spew? Unreal. The streamer seemed to process his plans, but tension hung in the air. Norris, 500 rubles. Hey, greatness. Hope you're okay. Stay safe. Any thoughts on the situation? What thoughts? I mean, the Anglo-Saxons are smoothly rubbing their hands in the Russians. Before he could finish, the camera shook. A distant boom echoed in the background. Pavich bolted from the frame, leaving the streamer on a lone chair for a while. The streamer's absence changed nothing. Now the donations asked questions of the chair. An ordinary day. A morning began, as usual, with cold porridge and packets of stronger tea and sugar. Sergeant Major Petrov, a seasoned soldier with 15 years in uniform, was given a task while the soldiers packed their gear. Sergyuga, check the medkits. Vanya, count the ammo, he commanded, calmly without unprecedented pomp. The soldiers nodded and got to work. A job is a job. Over breakfast, they exchanged news. Yesterday, the wounded from the neighboring company were sent to the rear, he said with the redhead sergeant nicknamed Bear. We could use a rotation soon too, someone sighed in response. No one really discussed why they were here. Everyone said that there was no way back. If you're called up, you serve. If you're given a task, you do it. Petrov studied the map, making new points of the pencil. In his pocket was a letter from his wife. The kids started school, apples ripened at the dacha. Ordinary life continued, something somewhere out there. Sergeant Major, is it true? Who will rotate in a month? He asked the youngest of the company. They say so. Petrov replied, as he wasn't very sure himself. When the orders to move came, they stood up without words. No one shouted patriotic slogans, just slung their backpacks and marched in formation. With whispers, prayers, some curse quickly smoked into silence, but they all marched because that's what's needed, because you can't want to go home. And only way they go through this. Zugzwang 5. The fireplace cast a flickering light across the polished surfaces of the oak table. Medvedev leaned back in his chair, absently tracing the fingers across the crystal room. The room was silent save for crackling burning logs. The system was flawless. Daily reports. The Nikov Army, Mission of FSB, Sergei on foreign intelligence. Every link in the chain was under control, but the war with NATO changed all the rules of the game. Victory would make him a national hero, a man who altered the course of history. His decision would be studied in academics, his portrait hung on ministries, but defeat. His fingers involuntarily gripped the glass tightly. Not just a military failure, a deliberate sabotage. Someone who could benefit from seeing the country on its knees. Someone might always be moving pieces on chessboard behind him. The SB, no, too dependent. The SFR, too cautious. The army, Shogu's image flashed in his mind. A general those whom war was a source of power and influence. What if they decided to defeat would open new opportunities to chaos was their chance to rewrite the rules. The fire suddenly crackled, spitting a shower of sparks. Medvedev flinched. The system had to work. It must work. But how to verify that behind impeccable reports wasn't carefully orchestrated betrayal? A sip of cognac, a drink burned his throat, but the bitterness in his mouth lingered. At the same time of doubt, unshakable. But order for investigation, everyone is heading towards the climax. The war is not only lead and bullets, but excitement, especially when foreign metal appears in the sky. F-19 Abrams, Leopards, everything the NATO troops had happily right on front line. And the people responded with the same coins now, even burnt Western tanks or MBPs. A reward is announced, not to the state, ordering people to collect money for ones who first to turn an expensive NATO toy into a burning torch, a bonus for a dead eagle, an extra change for a burnt cat, a steak. Leaks are growing every day. Someone will say, this is cynical, but isn't war itself cynical? After all, the West likes to count its losses. Let them count. We will help them. Fight you under Oleg Salyakov. Andrei Kuzmenko. Escape to the steppe. An unusual pasture crowded the platform of the Yaroslavsky Railway. Actually, Alexa, stop timer.
1 hour timer cancelled.
I'm gonna roll this to the end, baby. Road station in the pre-dawn haze. Not a tourist with a backpack, not business travelers with a briefcase, but people with large suitcases and strangely shining eyes. They were buying tickets to Ulan Unde, but for some reason everyone knew that this was only the first stop. The train had a special atmosphere in comparison to number 9. A young couple was looking at the map of Mongolia, pretending to plan an excursion to the statue of King Khan in the neighboring compartment. A middle-aged man was thoroughly regarding his guidebook to Buddhist monasteries. Through it was not pages of shape that were shake hands, but forwarded military IDs. At the Ulan-Unde station, everyone was correctly divided into groups. Some generally asked about a bus to Kyoto. Others already knew that it was better to take a taxi to the border. The elderly guide, who had seen a lot, just shook his head and said, "Oh, these adventure lovers." A motley crowd gathered in Nashki Suski border crossing. They were bed programmers with laptops and their backpacks. A pensioner with a cat carried even a family of 2 children who insisted they wanted to show their kids the real step. The Bulgars watched the procession. In Ulaanbaatar, they were met with bright sunshine. A confused taxi driver who couldn't understand why these Russians had such hard faces. Modern nomads flee from war. Draft dodgers functionally. Or refugees just moving to Mongolia. The Ghost of Kiev. Some random ghostly Ukrainian guy. South Ossetian volunteers. First Yugo Ostrenskaya Brigade. Go forth, brother. Lines of a clumsy letters written in colourful pencils, drawings, tanks, flags, and rays are seen. And to our heroes, patriotism lessons were taken by children in classrooms. The teachers handed out sheets of paper. Children write to defenders of the fatherland. A boy glasses licking his pencil carefully writes, "Dear soldier, I want to be like you." Strong and brave, his mate, without looking up, draws the equipment. In the last row, a girl bows painstakingly, writing a letter as taught in the first grade. "Thank you for protecting us from bandit eyes." Somewhere in the front, a soldier with chapped hands unfolds one of these papers. His fingers, accustomed to metal of the weapons, awkwardly stroke paper. He reads, then looks at the long time at a child's drawing where the sun is smiling. The tanks look like beetles. Tomorrow he will go into battle, and maybe this first smelling of a razor and hope will be the last thing he reads in life. In the distant rear, a warm classroom, a portrait of writers on the wall, of children already drawing new letters. The teachers carefully put the sheets of paper in a large box where someone has written, "To our defenders." The circle is closing. They've done a massive circle hunt of 1 unit. Brigades to work. Dee-da-dee-da-dum, create more zip brigades. stop having in West Africa. Embargoed by a different random ass country. After taking a stronghold by lake, the infantry was the first to rush to the water. Grenades flew into water instead of floats. A minute later, the surface was covered in ripples of floating fish. But the real catch began when the artillery poled up. The guns was towards the water, professionally calm. One salvo of 122 meters, the lake boiled, throwing the surfaces of all the fish within a radius of 100 meters. Soldiers with buckets and raincoats rushed to collect the catch, while others at the bank of the enemy watched the bewildering as strange Russian tradition. But by evening, the aroma of rich fish soup spread across the position. Rumors has it that the next day, drones dropped a note threatening to ban such fishing under the Geneva Convention. But it was too late. The tradition was already born. The king of war. If cannons were the queens of 19th century warfare and tanks ruled on battlefields in the 20th century, then the 21st century was drones. Are undoubtedly the new kings of war after the Americans deployed drones to the Middle East and Afghanistan. Drones became larger and more expensive and equipped with the latest and most powerful weapons. However, sometimes other than the gigantic dinosaurs, it is a smaller, often non-military bee that is the deadliest role. When we turning the drone flyers over the Dnieper River, we were striking to see most of the parts marked with the logo Sing Company. DJI Innovations headquartered in Shenzhen, China. Drones once delivered packages, so now dropping bombs on enemy soldiers. And the drones that once captured stunning landscapes are now filming heavily guarded military bases, logistics, warehouses, and marching troops. As past criticisms of the Chinese drones being unsafe or leaking user data was common, now accusations of supporting Russian aggression and stealing intelligence has surfaced when people, whenever out of curiosity or prison, asked DJI's president about their production being used on Eastern European battlefields. He has already begun to do by decisions made by product users that are unrelated to the company, and then he said he has no interest in war happening thousands of miles in Europe, all while maintaining expression of innocence. Made in China, more than washing machines and microwave ovens. Also, China gets the same thing. Vasily Ordintsov hunched over the laptop screen outside the area. Sirens wailed, a familiar soundtrack of new life scrolled in telegram channels, changing some truths beyond Chinese TV reports. Then he found it, a drone video, a grey field wrecked fragment, a few figures scrambled code. One seemed painfully familiar. A second later, the drone dropped its tiny, deadly payload. An explosion, smoke, and the figure stopped moving. The comments below were a torrent of mass, good riddance, Muscovite, die, rash, bitch, burn in hell, Mobix. But Vasily recognized him. Igor, his friend. That Igor. Georgia hit. He stared at the laughing emojis, reports twisting his gut. Igor, a fascist, Igor who dreaded this war, was more than anything. He slammed the laptop shut, but the image lingered. From the next room came a soft choke. Sobbed Anna, who sat on the bed, hugging her knees. These days ago, a code notice arrived. Sergeant Sergei S.A. While performing combat mission, missing in action. Missing in action. Those cold words will mean anything. Captivity, hospital, mass grave. To Anna, they meant one thing. Her Serezna father of her unborn child, was gone. Her fragile hopes of a single human happiness crushed under the war's boot. As he stood approached her door, he wanted to comfort her, but words stuck in his throat. What good's words in this hell? He just stooped, listening to her quiet sobs, thinking her fragile defenses will collapse. In this war, everyone lost. Coming of age. Vasily Odisov sat in the maternity ward corridor, fists clenched in rage. His brother-in-law died in a front fighting Ukrainian forces. No guesswork, because those bastards photographed the fallen on his phone and sent it to his sister, 9 months pregnant. Anna couldn't bear it. Premature labor began, and now the doctors fought for her life and the baby's. Vasily flinched. The explosion roared outside. A drone or European liberators, a cruise missile intercepted by city air defenses. He clenched his fists, trying to calm himself, recalling everything he'd read about this war's roots. It was simple. The Ukrainians were attacked, they defended, but because of them, his sister was giving birth early, risking death, and the baby that wasn't defense. It was what VK Telegram and non-Western sources said. What the news warned when Novorossiya got guaranteed and the war loomed. They were attacked, but his sister, who forgave his foolishness, always supported him, was bleeding out, trying to birth a child, a man killed by the same Ukrainians. They were attacked. Suddenly the storm in his soul sailed, a cold, lucid fury as ignored. Jingoistic propaganda. Force in Anna fused. Ukraine was attacked, and Vasily was a fool for not to see it deserved in May of 2014. When the Ukrainian Nazis bared their beastly fangs, they had personally enemies now. They'd pay for every life taken, every second Anna spent between life and death. Vasily decided, once things settled with Anna, one way or another, he'll shudder at the worst. He'd take his cousin's offer, a job in the defense plant, after his co-worker volunteered for the front. He support Anna with money and deeds, aiding the motherland, crushing the bastards that European accomplices. Every bomb he made would be whole vengeance for Anna, and may the FAB miss its mark. And may no FAB miss its mark. Fate is a gloomy thing. War was banal for humanity. If people can't agree on something, if negotiation a multi-million army comes into play, war has returned to Russian lands once again, and Europe once again from the west. Europe, united as ever, has attacked Russia, eager to carve off a peace and seize its resources. For the Russian people, that is nothing left to do but take up arms and resist the occupiers, for there is nothing to flee behind the lines of the Kremlin. Many have risen to defend the land, from Tuvans to American refugees. The situation in Microsoft is grim yet bearable. The 5 of them lived in a small 2-party room in Khrushchevka and earned slightly more than the bare minimum needed to survive, and they were grateful for that, because it could have been worse. But when the war in NATO began, banners appeared all over Vladivostok, offering to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense. Upon signing, one would immediately receive 4,600,000 and would subsequently get monthly pays of 450,000. Despite all difficulties with his family, Michael loved them and wanted the best for them. So he'd made this hard decision to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. Everyone was horrified and opposed, but he argued, "This is how I'll help you get out of this hole, and I'll see Europe along the way." That's what I always wanted anyway. A few days later, standing in a gloomy sky, uniform in his belongings, laying in the train, he said goodbye to his family. His sisters, his mothers cried, while his father sternly warned him to be careful and always follow orders for Russians hate it when you disobey orders. When the train arrived, boarding began. Michael promised in farewell and he would definitely return, and I would want to visit Europe. Don't want to stay. It turns out not to be great, but I don't want to stay here. It turns out not to be that great. He made his sister's promise to graduate with honors. Soon the carriage moved and the contract soldier headed towards Moscow. He did not know yet where he had signed up for, or how it would change him. We got Riga, lads! We cut the Baltic in half. 4 more days, then I can legally say I did Operation Sudarov and did thing. United, the banners of a united Russia. Times of trials unite people. When the war with NATO thunders on the fronts and overseas giants rave in convulsions of civil war, Russia stands firm, not only by force or arms, but also by unity of spirit. Tricolors is the main symbol of the banners of the modern state, but in the trenches and in the hands of volunteers going to the front, other banners are flashed. The scarlet cloth with the hammer and sickle, for blood, gold, white, imperial flag. This is no discord, this is heritage. The Soviet flag is a member of the great victories of the industrial breakthroughs, of the fact that Russia can withstand and every and the most terrible storm. The imperial banner remains a tradition of state power, of faith and order, but that the tricolor is a symbol of today, under which they struggle future. This is of Russia's strength, not in rejection of the past, but the ability to reconcile it, to fuse it with into a single will. When different banners rise above the country, this is not weakness, but proof. Here lies not just the population, but the people who remember their history and are ready to fight for it. One people, one destiny, different flags, united Russia. Synergy. The front in Donbass has always been a place of strange flags and ideologies mixed, but even for battles, hardened militiamen and the appearance of Confederate battle flags in the trenches came as a surprise. Soon it became a commonplace. Following the Cossack detachments, their new American relatives joined the war. These were neither mercenaries nor agricultural fighters. The Russians ruled in its classical sense. They were Cuban Americans for whom this conflict became personal. Yesterday, farmers and workers from Alabama and Tennessee who married Cossack women swore oath not only to their wives but their whole families. But when their father-in-law or brother-in-law went for a ribbon, and refusing was unthinkable. It was a way to prove their loyalty, earn their trust, and a new, huge, and harsh family. The young Southerners from Georgia named David, spitting on clods of dirt, explained this to a journalist. Simply and without pretension, my beloved asked me to look after her younger brother who went to Donbass. As a responsible family man, I can't refuse my wife's request. So here I am, watching over him and make sure he comes back home alive with all his limbs. Luckily, that his wife didn't mention teeth, or else I would have had to teach him a lesson once. Soon, the social network was filled with photos of strange allies, 2 flags, Novorossiyas and the Confederates. I mean, functionally they are very similar flags, you know, depending if it's the battle flag or the stars and bars. If it's the stars and bars, which looks more like the America's first flag, but with only 3 slides instead of, like, I think it was like I don't know how many were 3 stripes instead of how many there actually were, then yeah, it doesn't make sense. But if it's like the one with the stars and it's an X shape, then yeah, I see it. It's looking very similar. Yeah. What is the BMA? BMA, AM, BAM. God, I can't speak. This war is taking all my energy. A lesson in discipline. When the military police took Private Samarov for violating regulations, his fellow soldier Klimchuk went and witnessed a pure formality. The detention center smelled disinfectant solution and gunpowder lubricant. Comrade Sergeant, tell me where Klimchuk began. Then the answer came instantly. The butt of a machine gun briefly clicked on his cheekbone. Not hard, but enough to make a mark fly in his eye. Here they don't ask questions, they follow orders, the duty officer barked. 3 hours later, Semenov was released with a reprimand. Klimchuk was returning to his unit, clearly feeling a swollen lip. So the military police impressed you? Sergeant Major chuckled. Yeah, fine, Klimchuk muttered, spitting out the pinkish saliva. Now he knew for sure. Discipline is, of course, important, but they could have explained it in a humane way. Although, who is he telling this to? An army is an army. Come on, baby. Alright. Authorized banned weapons. The scale and intensity of the current war surpasses any conflict since World War II, a reality that even the boldest Cold War strategists could have hardly imagined. To secure victory, to demonstrate our military's latest advancements, we will deploy new weapons including large rocket launchers, drones, unmanned combat vehicles. Some of these weapons are previously restricted due to potentials for excess collateral damage or instant instability. However, those restrictions were lifted and confidently used to achieve significant results. Now our first major thing, take Riga and Kalinin. Oh god. Just take Riga, Kalinin, lads. That'll be a quick Tuesday afternoon. Another victory day. Red ink. The last Russian bookstore in Riga was closed. Policemen in blue NATO striped through the Master and Margarita and Dr. Zigano into garbage trucks, carefully tearing the spine of silver gloves in Prague, of leather gloves. In Prague, on the Wenceslav Square, they burnt effigies of Pushkin with a sign that said "A bloody colonialist." Captain Semenov needed a copy of the Sevastopol Tales in his fingers and bound in bulletproof fabric. In the margins were battle notes and blue paper. Yesterday in Warsaw, they tore down a monument of a Soviet soldier, Lieutenant Morozov cleaned the bolts, and in its place they put a standard photograph of our prisoners with captions "Barbarians." Somewhere behind the front lines, tornadoes, tanks, inscriptions. Two of the editors of Leon Tolstoy were aimed at enemy positions. On the armor of one of the tanks and inscriptions, "Your children will read Pushkin, accompanied by our smirches." This is not just a war, this is a cultural apocalypse, and Russia decided to teach the West its last lesson of literature with bloody ink on armored steel parchment. We have taken Tallinn. Consequences of globalization. Vanka sitting at the ammunition box, smoking and the smoke rings over a damp evening in his hands. The Chinese radio crackling with a commander's voice. Regroup at the mark. Somewhere nearby, a kettle bubbling connected with it to a generator. It's funny, he says. In the fair, we're fighting NATO but shooting at Ukrainians With Russian weapons, we communicate radios made from China. We would go online through Starlink. Someone laughed hoarsely in darkness, and they, Vanka nodded at an invisible enemy behind the front lines, are fighting with their own old hardware Soviet tanks and shells. Silence. Only somewhere far away, the wind howled. And who benefits from this? He asked the void. But the void did not answer. Only somewhere in the darkness a ball of light crackled, the boot clenched in mud, and someone's voice muttered, apparently everyone. We have saved Estonia from itself. Now led by the... Oh, goddamn, I need to get my phone. By the way, real parties.
Completely unaware of how strange her future.
What was that? Watching something else. What was beforehand? E-K-R-E. Now, Estonia, as a puppet, is now led by Yana Toom of the Eerste Conservatieven in Verkomkond, or the Conservative People's Party of Estonia. We have taken Latvia, now under because I have to do the actual full damn name because when playing RP it just says residential permits. Oh, there it is. Action Party. The new Republic of Latvia is led by Ruslan Pankrantov of the Action Party. A new freed Latvia, excluding Latgalia, we've liberated her. Same for Estonia except for Tartu and Idadvuru. Narva. Symbolism of the new time. The captain adjusted the fresh patch on his sleeve. Born an orc, defend your motor. The soldier around him exchanged grins. Such jokes have become commonplace since NATO's propaganda began calling them orcs. The soldiers at the machine gun tapped his finger on his inscription. Yes, we are orcs. No, we will not apologize. Simply and without unnecessary words. Somewhere over the hill, the explosion from the captain looked over the company. Different versions flashed on the bulletproof vest. Mordor is forever. Orcs sound proud. Born in Mordor, serve Russia. They were not angry at these nicknames. They made them their strength. When the enemy paints you as a monster, the worst thing you can do is agree and smile. Homemade banners flutter over trenches. Black cloth with white eyes. War is war, but even in hell, there is a place for black humor. Thanks for the guns. I have cut out Europe in Klaipeda. The dining car. The dining car in Sevastopol and Moscow train was transformed after it left the Yezhno station, where ordinary people used to sit. Soldiers are now resting on their way home from the front on leave. The group of 4 people sitting at one table laughed as they discussed the events as happening to them. At the front, albeit with sadness in his eyes, next to them, an artilleryman can barely hold his head drunk despite the fact that the restaurant staff has forbidden him from selling alcoholic drinks, still appeared on the table. Both of his colleagues are from carrying visitors. The seemingly calm atmosphere suddenly diluted by a large man in a uniform. From his appearance, it was immediately clear that he is a Barry from a different field. From his stories, it is clear that he is a stormtrooper commander, and all his speeches are filled with rage towards the enemy, towards those who are dodging service, towards management. After a general toast to those who didn't make it to the restaurant, fall silent for a while. All that's left in the air is car of wheels, or going home. Oh. We've taken Kiev, lads. So we've got the Republic of Malorossiya, led by the Committee for the Salvation of Ukraine under Nikolai Azarov. There's also the Karpatskaya Rus, led by the Rus movement under Petro Getsko. Kiev counter. The Kiev counteroffensive has failed. Wartime. Moscow lives in a strange rhythm, as if no ordinary life goes on, but something hard and attack shows through. On Tverskaya, instead of advertising smartphones, there's a huge billboard. Your country is calling. A young man in a helmet looks from photo with a blurred silhouette. An assault group behind him below is a QR code and a iconically enrolled with the Russian armed forces. At the bus stop, portrayed of the heroes of the war of NATO, the metro propaganda video. Voice of it. Every day our soldiers perform the feats, and while we doing on the screen footage of burnt armors, vehicles, and recognizes silhouettes editing music. There are queues at the military recognition and enlistment office, not crowds, but not empty either. Young men with backpacks, older men, some of them smoking, some of them silently scrolling their phones. On the wall, graffiti with inscriptions, "We do not abandon our own." It is quiet in the cafe. TV show news on the front. On the wall, posters of concept for our defenders. And the Uber group all fees for the family of the mobilized. And in the evening, when the black lights are turned on, Kremlin is bathed in red and blue tones. In Bolshoi's Kani Bridge, an installment "Thank You to the Heroes," an endless list of names. Moscow is still the same, and already completely different. We have taken Vilnius, and Lithuania has now been freed under Estursra, or the Tigsigamu Estursra. Tigromo Sustra. So the new Republic of Lithuania is under Agridos Palishchik under the Dawn of Justice Party. Legendary name. Anyway. No, you haven't recaptured it. It's still under our control. It's now just under a puppet. True friends, on the distant frontier of the European war appeared people in unfamiliar uniforms. Their grey coats and thick of the muted olive hues on their side cars, a small five-pointed star and red emblem. Their faces were stern like a slow slopes of craggy mountains. They marched in such formation that it seemed even the wind then stepped aside from them. At first they were seen only at night, dark silhouettes crossing empty roads, swift presses sound. Then they began to be noticed by day. The position shown beside our units where they studied the maps and worked with any. To our soldiers it was hammered in that Yakuts or Buryats, but they could not help but note the neat ranks and distinctive leaf green helmets they had never seen before. Their speech was sharp and rapid, but they just understood without words. We are happy. We are your allies. In the letters on the front, they began to mention more often. Some wrote about iron discipline, others or how they sang strange, lingering songs by the campfire glazing towards the sun and often horizon. And someone would simply add, "Now there are two of us in this war. We have found each other." And the change in much upon arriving to front lines, they carried themselves safely to us, resolve a mythical steed able to cross thousands and lit in a single bound. Each of them, their sets were well measured in eyes, full of certainty in the justice of our common cause. These are warriors of the Korean People's Army. They came of allied duty and brotherly sealed a fresh ink and trade the unshakable union between our countries. Far away in the east, a Pyongyang orchestrator thundered through the streets, followed columns of people bearing the portrait of the leader and studies an unbreakable friendship between two people. Here on Russian soil, the steel broken arms were preparing to write new lines into the chronic of struggles against our foes, and like the Far Eastern riflemen once came from the sunrise and saved Moscow, a new wind begins to blow. The wind of eastern change, the wind of the morning calm. A Chomila has found its place in the Russian troika. Chomila is a Korean version of a Pegasus. The Kurelsky Expeditionary Corpus, or the Korean Expeditionary Corporation Company. Weeks they lived as moles in damp crevices of earth under the weight of the eternal hum of the clouds, but when the forest finally covered itself in thick, shallow green, began to appear all cracks and holes. They crawled for short times, 5 minutes, no more, 5 minutes to breathe air without pressing themselves to the ground, 5 minutes of light, ate a cigarette, throwing back their heads and seeing the sunrise skin, 5 minutes of silence without howls and lines of cracking bullets. But these minutes were enough to breathe life, to go back down into the hole and clutch the machine gun in the arms and prepare the next attack. Drones were hanging in the sky, bombings would not stop, but now amongst the thick shadows they were little shelter and little hope, and that was enough. For a just cause, this war may be the ultimate battle, while we long anticipated and allowed us to put an end to the so-called containment strategy imposed by Russian countries. It will break the political, economic, and cultural containments of Russian people, and now enabling the Russian nation to achieve a true liberation. It is total war. Our citizens will come to understand the efforts of media, cultural advocate on our online platforms as a result of concepts of sacred war of justice and will be deeply ingrained in every Russian. Holy war. There are no political officers in the trenches. No one reads the long speeches about party discipline. No one makes you fill out a form. But if you walk through the trenches before you attack, you can see them. People in Cossack robes, cassocks and robes, with crosses and crescents in their chests. An Orthodox priest in a Grimsky cassock blessed the soldiers, kissing the camp's triptych. In the neighboring dugout, a grey-bearded mullah quietly reads surahs, walking around the soldiers. It doesn't matter which icon they bow their heads or which way they turn their prayer rugs. So what is important is after these minutes of silence, the soldiers go to the war with a different expression on their face. Not rage, but determination. The war brought them together here, not in order and above, but with a call of heart, without the party call, but with faith. And in this strange trench, under the whistle of nines, the most holiest is born, not under the chapter, but by blood. Somewhere in headquarters, they may argue whose God is more correct, but here on the front lines, they're simply doing their jobs, a reminder that there's more than life than fear and death. Small front, the yield war left fields unharvested and the eyes of grain dropped under the weight of unfiltered duty, and where harvest rots, rats, fat and plundered, scurry the hordes of trenches, and no provisions for women, even they bite the heels of sleeping soldiers. To the soldiers had a look for allies, not from headquarters but from amongst the four-legged. The cats began appearing in trenches striped red and black. They do not know the regulations, but they serve honestly. They catch rats and warm themselves by trenches using candles and listen to stories of their two-legged comrades, but they say cats have 9 lives. Maybe that's why they are taken into the very heat. So that at least some of the vitality can be passed on to people, and the rats, well, war will someday be for them too, will end by a cat's verdict. The Azov leadership on trial. After long intense fighting in Ukraine, the neo-Nazi paramilitary group known as the Azov Battalion has officially surrendered to our forces. The Azov Battalion's leader, such as Dini Prokopchenko, was quickly dragged into the streets and publicly humiliated, stripped off their fascist imagery, and were regularly beaten. Eventually attacked east, and one of the shortest trials began. In the span of half an hour, people such as Poprenko, Ilhor Mazechuk, and Vidian Troyan were sentenced to death by means of public hanging in Novorossiya. For years, Azov has terrorized our people, and they're acting like rabid dogs and tearing families apart. Of course, the leadership was quick to break, knowing that justice finally caught with them. They were begging, crying, and pleading for money, just how pigs know that it's slaughter, and these fascists knew their end was near. Today justice is served. Javelins won't save you now. Telegram, the war on the screen. Fingers scroll from feed and pre-dawn blue on the screen. Somewhere far away, hundreds of kilometers away, shells and exploding is hid and flickering space of war come. In a short form, chopped messages, trembled frames and from basements and voice messages on losing connections. The official media speak carefully, but for telegrams there was no correct narrative, only the living, cruel, often inconvenient reality that crawled out from through crooked screenshots from Western phones, from videos, from thermal imagery that is distorted by influence. With random photos where someone carelessly left a shadow of their face against the backdrop of burnt equipment. The channels lived their two lives, some methodically, like the Metronome Post reports, 2 tanks destroyed, Helo shot down, others through memes disposed of German junk. And to attract, shot down Leopard with a caption, special operation to dispose German junk. Screenshot with foreign news where Russian has been defeated for the 5th time this month. Simply live broadcast or black smoke over cities trench filled with mud and solid face or after battle. The feed full of headlines, the route to Nazi lair, special operations of the armed forces in Vilnius headquarters was liquidated 18+ video. Hot night where Ghost Battalion set up a cauldron for Polish volunteers. Special reports from Kaliningrad region live under shelling by Polish territory Didn't give up. Ours don't give up. Exclusive interception of conversation post command, panic, swearing, call, help, translation audio. Stream continued line by line, frame by frame, day by day until the phone goes out. We will take the NATO Caucasus forces. That's new. This is about us destroying some random. About Petrov shooting down some random, I think, some random explosion. As I getting glassed over. Moldova is dead, and that F-55 is dead. And now Republic of Moldova is led by Ilian Shaw, not under the Shaw Party, but by offering democratics. Rebuild the Ukrainian army, or the Belarusian army. Jesus, this is going to be loud. Some guy's random ass tweet. Del or Rom Del or Bold Del or Fun because I don't remember which ones. Del or Slow. That was it. Do the bug. I want to read this one for yourself. Actually, it's just a camera taking out of some guy getting shot or something. Poland's dead. That is the Polish People's Republic, led by Jerzy Korwin-Mikke and the New Hope, and the state of Galicia under the Galician Union under Marii Kowalski. I wanted to defeat all my opponents. Am I a bit of a perfectionist for that? Yes, but it has more content in it, so hey ho. Del or J, Del or Fra, Del or Eng, that has my heart, Del or Rom, Del or Bull, Del or Slow, Del or Hun, and Del or Turd. Oh, Del or Eta as well. We're taking Budapest. We got a new state of Romania under the Alliance for a United Romania, under Gigi Becali, and also the Commonwealth of Transylvania, by the move for Transylvanian sovereignty under Venecio. There's the Hungarian state under Move about Hungary, or Jobbik under Timo Bemko. I think I said that right. Bulgarians under Vasil Bozkov of the United Patriots. Damn it! Need to rush. I'm gonna do it. Tells me. How long am I actually going? Cause almost 2 hours. Game don't crash on me now. Hoover! Eng. J. Del. Fra. Del. T. Del. Slow. Del. Pun. Del. O. Del. Rom. Del. Peter. Del or Gret. Del or DRC. DRC is not actually a cheat bug. Del or cog. Cheat bug. Del or one. Now we're taking Slovakia. There we should have. Now under the Smer Democratic Socialist Party under Fico. And Warsaw's capitulated, leaving us with everyone. Some reason they're not connected, but victory! Finally, Jesus Christ! Who? Fuck! I forgot the. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to that for damn time. Victory! As guns settle, we find ourselves in the damn new New era. Our goals have been realized. Globalist menace have been driven back west, battered. Hopefully, they will be no threat to us for the foreseeable future. And this victory will come to us at a great cost, as no territories will be liberated or need reconstruction. Perfect time to slow things down and focus on our people. Russian victory of the road. Slava Russia. The caliber of a Willy Brandt, Helmut Schmidt, or Charles André Joseph Marie de Gaulle remains in the deep past. Europe is getting shallower. Dmitry Medvedev, Slava Russia. Also, the borders are fixed up. First things first, delete all these borders. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a verb. Missing somewhere before my retinas burn out completely. Where is it? Somewhere, I know for a fact it is. I can't see, is it? Ah, there. There's one. I'm missing two more. Shouldn't have unpaused it. Fuck. Sorry for my language. Dmitry Medvedev's victory seat. Dear compares, today we bury the NATO Hydra. I am so loose. I've written it. Those who yesterday waved their paper flags and posted as world masses now crawl on their knees begging for mercy. Their arrogance is shattered. Their invincible army rooted. When we launched our special military operation, I warned those degenerates interfere and you'll be annihilated. But high on their hegemony, they dared challenge us, and those political freaks losing their planet for 30 years, actually, they thought they could dictate to Russia. We answered so hard their ears still ringing. We could have reduced them to radioactive ash, but still our pathetic capital still spared their pathetic capitals. Not because we couldn't have, but because true warriors don't fight rats. We simply showed them their place in the dirt of defeat. Today their great alliances packed his trembling jackals, who yesterday snarled but now tuck their tails. Their unipolar world is dead. NATO is cracking apart. Russia rises tall. Woes of those who dare stand in our way. Now we set the rules. The first is simple. We don't argue with Russia. You don't argue with Russia. You obey Russia. Glory to the victors. Glory to the Russian arms. Glory to great Russia. So Europe is in shambles. I mean, Africa's been in shambles before, but still. So Poland straight up is now 4 countries. Galicia will unite with them, so it's technically fine. So it will be free. The Republic of Poland on the other side under the Kolachik Obywatelski, the Salvation Coalition, something coalition anyway, under Rafał Trzaskowski, I hope I said that right, and Silesia under the Silesia together under Jaworski or Bremski. Much easier name. Much easier thing to say. We did it, boys. My ears are hurting. My eyes are burning. I still can't see where. It's somewhere around here. I can't see it still. It says everyone's. Everyone's unemployed, so I would say it is. Thanks, Romania. Bit belated, but still. And with that, I call this video due. So, the legalists are absolutely roasting the national government of Brazil. We've just won the European war. I'll go over this more in next video because I'm too tired. I made this video prepared for tomorrow, made late into today. No, wait, no. Made tomorrow, which will become today. Made earlier today, which will be yesterday. Either way, my brain is completely fried from watching the screen for too long, and the sky has gone black at night. Europe is a complete utter mess, and I'm going to sign out now. Have a good day, have a good night. I'm signing off. Good day, goodbye, goodbye.